Okay. All right. What's up? What's up? What's up, with everyone? What's up with everyone? So we got a couple things coming up today. We got Iran and the U.S. trading strikes for an 11th straight night. Oil just broke $92 a barrel. Alphabet and Tesla report earnings today that could move your 401k tomorrow morning. All right. And then Steph Curry just made basketball history. He made basketball history while still active. That's the next hour. I'm not here to read headlines at all. I'm here to tell you what they actually mean for your money, your peace of mind, and your walk. So let's get into it. All right. Now, before we go any further, though, if this is your first time catching the Urban News Journal live, hit subscribe right now, turn on notifications. This channel is being rebuilt from the ground up starting today. And I want you all here for it. All right. So let's start where the world's attention is right now, not the noise, the actual pressure point. Okay. So for context and for you guys to really understand what's going on, the U.S. they did their 11th consecutive night of strikes on Iran. All right. Iran claims a new attack on the U.S. base in Kuwait, which is crazy because I remember being in Kuwait. All right. I was in Kuwait deployed in support of Operation Iraq War. And we did our convoy missions out of Kuwait all the way up to the northern parts of Iraq, and I can't imagine being still being if I was still there having to deal with strikes. That's crazy. That is crazy to even like comprehend that. I know I'm saying crazy over and over because I'm blown away about it. And because that has happened, we got plenty of the oil above $92 a barrel. And the Strait of Hamas, remains the flashpoint for all of this. So we knew or we heard that U.S. and Iran were, undergoing some negotiations um, back in June. I remember that, and then just to find out that it was broken down with them going back and forth, starting to, you know, strike each other. Y- And we're talking about 11 nights of strikes. Most people scrolling past it like it's weather, like it's normal. What does it take to actually get some sustained attention on something this serious? Because we don't know where this can go. Okay, we got a couple of ideas where it could go, but if we being completely honest, we might be headed for something totally major. We might be in for like a treat. So I want to pull up, you know, I'm going to literally pull up what they are saying around the world about this. Okay, because again, like I said, do America needs any major war? Does America need any more major wars? That's the big question. Okay, and if you think we can handle this one, you might want to put it down in the chat right now. Tell me whether or not you believe that yes, America can handle another uh, war. I mean, we are already in the thick of it already. They can keep telling you over and over like, hey, we're not fighting, we're not in a major war, but yeah, we got wars going on simultaneously all over the place. And that's something that a lot of Americans sleep on. But brother, I'm gonna tell you like this. Don't be deceived. Don't be fooled. Don't be deceived by these politicians and by these different analysts. Y- They they're not going to tell you the truth about it. And that's one thing about the military that I remember being in is that a lot of the secrets that most people don't know about, we get like a little bit of a hint about it. We usually the first people to know what's about to go down before it reaches back home. And here in America, boots on ground. Here in America. But as it's looking though, I kind of believe that this is to going into like something real serious. Okay, so let me see if I can pull up something on some new stuff on this. All right. One thing I want to start doing on this particular um podcast this live podcast, this live stream, however you want to say it, but I want to start getting some perspectives from some credible um, news sites, and I should have had this ready and set up, but unfortunately, it didn't work that way. It did not work that way. Um, so all right, here's this. This is one from Reuters. Okay, let me get this pulled up. Get this pulled up. And man, I'm a little rusty on live streaming. I can honestly say I haven't live streamed in a long time. So this is all kind of brand new to me, folks. But we're gonna get there. We're going to get there. And once again, drop us with a comment, and letting us know what your thoughts is on this Iran U.S. situation. Um, because man, like I said, it's more serious than what we can comprehend and wrap our heads around. Unfortunately, so I was going to show you one from Reuters, but I mean, yeah, I want this one. I want this one. I want the thick one. Yeah, that's the one I want. Uh, yeah. So let's see if I can share my screen and give you guys the lowdown on this. Okay, let's view this together. I don't I I don't know if okay. I didn't figure out why keep that going. I, So this all happened last night. What we're seeing here, with this video. So western and southern parts of Islamic Republic were hit. Northwestern Iran was also hit. Strikes were reported all over in the province, the western province. Explosions were also reported near the strait, and then we had reports that emerged as their news agency said the port city down in the southwestern part of it was also hit. Right, brand new wave. This is actual footage. So they're saying that they're going to target more American interests in different sites. Okay, we don't want that. We don't want that at all. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Nope. Nope. So here's we had some service members that were killed in action, not necessarily in action. Um, so Sergeant Michael Emmanuel Swinton, the third American service member killed in yeah, due to the attacks in Iraq and Jordan. He was killed in northern Iraq. Okay. So here, I'm gonna pause it right there. Let me go back to my screen here. Um, so let's stop sharing for a second. All right. So that's what's going on right now. You know, and because this is going on, the oil prices are being hit again. The gas pump going crazy right now. And then your grocery is starting to look a whole lot differently lately. It doesn't it doesn't look like how I remember it. I mean, these prices are crazy. I mean, I remember when you can get bread for, under $2. I mean, there's probably some places where you still get it under $2, but where I'm at is $1.99 and up. Okay, so this is this is not abstract geopolitics at all. It's definitely about your Friday budget. Your Friday budget is gonna feel it. It's gonna feel it. Um, and then when we talk about the Strait of Hamas, all right, that's a choke point. A huge share of the world's oil moves right through there. And that explains why that one stretch of water matters more than the headline suggests. Every time there's something going on there, we seeing the prices of the gas going up rather than continuing to fall. They were falling for a little while. We had a little bit of relief, but even that little bit of relief wasn't like much. Okay. So these folks got to get it together. They got to get it together. Like the White House got to do better, man. Iran, they're crazy over there. I just don't not I just do not know, if the negotiations are going to improve moving forward. And we're receiving that whiplash of the negotiations that supposedly happened in June. Um, Now we got strikes in July. We go from negotiations to strikes. You know, and that says a lot about how fragile de-escalation is is actually is right now. Okay, all right, and I'm wondering, what does a prudent person do with their money when the oil and geopolitical political risks are both spiking all at once? And so this. I'm not trying to give you investment advice. I just want your mind to be steady and thinking. Okay, you know, I want you to think a little bit more logic. You know what I'm saying? Like, if these oil numbers continue to go up due to like this fighting, what should you be doing with your money right now? And that's a question. Unfortunately, I don't think you know uh, the politicians can really answer. I don't think they can answer truthfully. What exactly we should be doing with our money. Okay, 11 nights, 11, man, and half this country found out from a stock ticker. Like, we didn't find out, from a headline. We had to look at the stock market, and then question what's going on, and then there you go. You find it. You find out. You got all of these strikes happening 11 nights in a row. So I want you to know what you're watching on this one. So chat, won't you do me a favor? Pull up, man. Let me know where you're at. How you doing today? What's on your agenda? How you feel about this particular situation? So let's open it up. Let's open it up right now. Drop in the chat. Are you watching the Iran situation for the geopolitics, or are you watching it because of what's it's doing to gas prices? And be brutally honest too. I'll read a few of these live. If you happen to drop some comments, some chat comments, I'll take about 2 to 3 of them. Okay, but keep it coming though. I'm going to circle back to this before we close out today. All right. So now that we have followed the money, literally, today is a today is a big one on Wall Street, man. Wall Street is definitely having some interesting things going on. All right. So to put this in big context, the Dow and the S&P futures dipped ahead of its opening bell today. Okay. Nasdaq 100 futures down sharper, and then you got the Alphabet company and Tesla report after today's close, and following that, Meta, Microsoft, Amazon, Apple, they all reporting the following week. Chip stocks and the broader AI trade are rallying pretty hard. They doing their best to keep up, and then South Korea's KOSPI, KOSPI, KOSPI jumped about 4.6% as leverage bets were starting to unwind. Tariffs and rising oil are also weighing on the sentiment. And we just found out today that Trump is going to move forward with some tariffs on Canada, and that's going to be affecting a lot of stuff. Phew. What's with this pettiness, man? It's so much pettiness. Dang. Oh, God, there's a lot of pettiness. It don't make no sense. So the biggest question is, why did the market dip before earnings? Okay. And why isn't it panic? Actually, what it ends up looking like, it looks like more of like investors starting to brace themselves for the unexpected. I mean, if you looking at the numbers, it's no longer unexpected. We know something huge is about to go down, and there's a difference worth understanding too. Okay, So the market's dipping before earnings are even reported. And the first part of the dominoes of a huge earnings week, Alphabet and Tesla are, are signaling for AI trade, more broadly speaking. So it's a beat or a miss from either one of those signals. And people are looking towards AI trade. I need to get me some AI stock. I don't have none right now. Maybe I should get me some. So the AI stock, what's the story on that? What's the story on how it's rallying currently right now? So it seems like it's the 2021 hype all over again. And the biggest question is the real revenue. Is it finally catching up to the valuations this time? And if so, then maybe we should be fair to like both sides of this. All right. And man, if it happens to be hype, which I don't think it is. I think maybe, you know, um a lot of these tech giants that are pushing AI. I think a lot of them are starting to see some real money being made, and that might be a good signal for us to go ahead and jump in and give it a shot, and especially while we see in other um, parts of the market dipping today. You know, and once again, this is not financial advice. This is just speaking logically about this thing. That's exactly what it is. All right, so tariffs plus oil plus earnings, uncertainty. That's what that is. It's stacking at the same time. While all of this is going on and around the market, you got the tariffs and the oil. Tariffs plus oil. But the one thing about the Canadian tariffs um, that the U.S. is slapping on them because of Trump. He's unhappy with Canada. He said he's not going to put any tariffs on the oil coming from Canada. That's a positive. That's a net positive. So that's three separate pressure systems hitting the market in the same week. Isn't that crazy? You got uncertainty happening because of the tariffs, because of the oil, and in the Iran war we just talked about it. That has a lot of footing in it. So to ground the regular person on this and to really kind of ease your mind about this a little bit, you don't need to day trade Tesla to care about this. So if you're not a trader, if don't have a personal stake in the trade exchanges, you know it, but when you think about your retirement account, when you think about your company's hiring plans, and then when you think about your rate environment, that's where it matters. All right. So yeah, it's gonna be a lot of people that's probably gonna lose some money this week. I had a cousin. He called me. He said, "Man, like my I looked at my portfolio, my account. That that I got like a couple stocks out there, and like it didn't went down. I might have to pull out, man. You know, I'm going to pull out before it go down any further. So the panic is happening. The panic is happening, but don't panic. Don't panic because somebody's winning. Somebody's going to win while this continues to happen. Um, I had a person once told me, When you start to see things dipping down, that's usually it's usually a signal to kind of just hold the line, and because eventually it's going to rise back up. All right, we're going to see things improve. After, well, it's going to be some pain though. It's going to be some pain. Expect the pain. The pain is coming. All right. You don't have to own. Once again, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say it again. You don't have to own a single share of Tesla for this earnings report to touch your life. Okay. You don't have to own Alphabet. You don't have to own, have any holdings in any of the AI companies. This is gonna touch your life one way or the other. And that's what nobody explains to you, and that's what I'm trying to do for you right here, right now. I'm not going to get too technical and get into the ins and outs of the market and how it works, but I'm going to speak to you plainly about it. Speak to you plainly and let you know. If you got just because you don't got no share of stocks, all right, it is going to affect your life one way or the other. One way or the other. So yeah, let's shift from the market to the machinery of government. Let's get into some government stuff, okay? Because there's a legal system story today that deserves more attention than it's actually getting. All right. So what we have going on right now currently is that there were several U.S. attorneys that were fired. The administration just went straight up nuclear. Okay, and that's kind of literally getting ready to happen over in Iran. Knock knock. But several U.S. attorneys that were appointed by federal judges have lost their jobs. Okay, and at least one of them, Roger Rogoff, he filed a lawsuit over being removed. And then separately, we got Representative, Mickey Sherrill. So Representative Sherrill, Mickey Sherrill, he flagged the software error that like kind of led to some ineligible voters being found on the rolls. So that's something else that's going on, simultaneously while you got the administration firing U.S. attorneys, and one would wonder why. One would wonder why. Okay, and it's you. I just basically because now they're all of a sudden they're finding ineligible voters on a lot of the rolls, and so there's this suspicion of cheating going on. All right, and that's why they were removed. And unfolding alongside of that, something more broader is the 2026 midterm election preparations, which Arizona has theirs this week. And so what does that actually mean when a sitting U.S. attorney sues over their removal? That's nothing that's small. It's not a routine personnel move. Again, one would ask why. And several reasons why. Maybe. Maybe not several reasons, but a few. Okay. So the independence of the judiciary angle. All right. So these were judge appointed U.S. attorneys, which is a specific and less common appointment path. So this matters. This matters a lot. So if we are firing judge appointed U.S. attorneys, what we are saying is we don't agree with the judges that appointed them. That's what it says in a nutshell. And when it comes to the voter roll software era, which is separate, um, it's a separate issue, but kind of tied into this a bit. And what this whole era has done, it has separated the legitimate, clean, accurate roles, concerned from the political football that this is going to become in an election year. All right, so we don't know if we're going to have any legitimate uh, roles this election year, because, like, we're starting to uncover a bunch of fraud going on. Now, are we absolutely sure it's fraud though? Are we absolutely sure? I mean, are we just finding a couple errors here and there? Is it? I don't. It may not be as widespread as they're making it to be. Okay, I don't think it is. I do not think it is. So Arizona, like I said, they just had their primary this weekend. I would suspect that there's going to be some type of uh, recount or a pause on the results until they can separate, what's legitimate and what's not legitimate. You know, um, and with the midterms on this 2026 calendar year, more states are coming, more states are following. I know early voting starts July 28th here in Wisconsin. Um, I'm gonna go ahead and get my early voting done. I don't really like doing the whole election day thing. It's not really my thing. I don't like the lines. I don't like the some of the weird issues that occur on election day. So I try to avoid all that and get my vote in pretty early. All right. So we got to be able to read stories like this without picking our partisan team. We don't want to lean to one side or the other and saying, "Oh, by U.S. attorneys getting fired, rah rah rah, yeah yeah yeah, Team MAGA." Or we don't want to say, "Oh, U.S. attorneys getting fired, all this fraud happening. It's a hoax." Democrats, liberal, rah rah rah. It's all a hoax. And we find out that on both sides they say the same thing. Sometimes in reverse. You might have one side saying this and the other side saying that. But regardless of the fact, you gotta dig into the verified facts and really figure out what's the proper interpretation and what still is unresolved. Okay, you don't want to just jump conclusions and jump on your team and and take their side of like what's happening in um these news. So once again, I'm just gonna drive it home. You don't have to pick a side to demand the process, to actually work. A lot of times we think we got to pick a side to demand that the process works. That's not weakness. That's the whole point of the process. Okay, the whole point of the process is to be able to look at it organically as a whole, and then make some demands like, hey, why isn't it working, or what is working. This is exactly the kind of story I want you guys to read on. So let's go back to the chat. Real talk. When you see a story like the U.S. attorney lawsuit, do you trust your first instinct on who's right, or do you actually wait for more reporting to happen? Take the time out. Drop a comment on that question. Once again, I will read these comments as they come. If we don't get any comments, but we get them post live stream, I will, bring those comments to the front of the congregation on the next stream. All right. So let's get into something else. We're done with geopolitics. I didn't do my homework enough. Yeah, and a little bit of what my stuttering is, from why my stuttering is happening and why I'm really tripping over words is because once again, I haven't done live streaming in a long time, and I'm trying to come off the cuff as best as possible. So, guys, just bear with me. I'm gonna get better as we, do this more and more. I got to get my reps in first. I gotta flex my muscles and really get better at this thing. All right. So let's do something that's just plain good old news and move away from the government. So Stephen Curry, the best shooter in the world, the world's greatest shooter, Steph Curry. So he's headed to the Basketball Hall of Fame with a first of its kind exhibit built around him. He's still actively playing, and that is totally off the Hall of Fame tradition. That's not what they normally do. They normally wait to a until a player is in retirement to do something like this. So being enshrined in any sense is rare, you know, especially when you're still active in what you're doing. That's totally unheard of. That's very unheard of, and that really puts into like further context of what it says about his career as we know it. Curry, he's he's a champion. He's proved that like he's one of the top players in the league, and he's proved that like he's one of the top shooters, you know, um, ever. Arguably, could be one of the best shooters, arguably ever. So his story is one of skill plus being persistent despite his size. He demonstrated that his size was not really what made him a good player. It's more of the athleticisms uh, that he displayed. He displayed, and that resonates beyond basketball fans, and it's a good model to really look at in a good um case study. So he's a good case study, for anybody who's trying to chase a long shot goal. For him to make it into the NBA, he had some trouble very early on in his career. He could have been with the Bucks, and man, the Bucks do some crazy stuff. We swapped him out to get Monty Ellis. Like, can you believe that? Monty Ellis. And that's a name that some people don't even know. Some people don't even know the name Monty Ellis. Okay, and that's just crazy. Just crazy, man. Hold on, and I didn't even switch over. I'm over here talking and didn't even switch over to let you guys know that we're talking about sports and culture. Yeah, first of its kind. Never to happen. Never to happen. Okay. But it's a good thing though. It's a real good thing because I think it's pretty motivating when you're still active in what you do to get your flowers while you're still doing what you do. Um, because like that's instant validation right there, and that's instant feedback. That a lot of people don't get in real time. And historically slow moving institutions like the Hall of Fame, it seems like they are starting to adapt in real time to genuinely appreciate, unprecedented careers such as Curry. So, we're hoping for a change in culture. And that's I think that's good. I think it's a good thing. I think it's a real good thing. All right. So Curry, his patience and longevity. It's very, very parallel, to any long grind. I mean, he's been in the league for a while. Let me see. Let me figure out how long has he been in the league? How long has Curry been in the NBA? It's a good question. 17 seasons. Woo. Once again drafted 7 overall um by the Golden State Warriors. There was a time where we could have had him. We could have made a trade and got him over here at the Bucks. You know, 2009. He's an MVP. He's been an MVP 2014 season. I mean, the boy, he got skills, man. The boy got skills. He made his first All Star and playoff appearance in 2012. Has been, Western Conference Player of the Month several times. I mean, he got a huge body of accolades. And again, he would go on to be a champion. He was unanimous as the MVP back in 2015. He had one historical season that particular 2015 season. He became the first player since Michael Jordan to score 118 points in his team's first 3 games. That's crazy. And then including a season high of 53 points against the New Orleans Pelicans in his third game. So the Warriors, they made NBA history when they became the first team to ever start with a 16-0. Um, and that's crazy. That's crazy. They started 16-0, and that's a testament to Curry. A huge testament to Curry. It shows that like his presence on that team has really paid off. It really rallied that part of California back to um, being a winning state during that time. Back-to-back championships, 2016 to 2018. Man, this guy, and then his 5th consecutive NBA Finals happened 2018 season. He had a injury that sidelined him the following year, which would be, kind of why they missed out on possibly taking the championship, the NBA championship again. They could have, I think if he was healthy that year, they would have went on to win in that season. They he wasn't the only one out. Thompson was out; he was injured, and then Kevin Durant, he was a free agent and ended up leaving. Okay, end up leaving. Crazy. But he will come back though. He'll come back in 2021 season and then score another career high of 62 points on 18 of 31 shooting. Crazy. So he came back and he did his thing. Um, Another accolade, all-time three-point scoring record. Finals MVP. He became the Finals MVP that same year and went on to win the championship. I mean, and this guy is definitely proven. He's proven to be one of the best. Proven. He's been on the world team, the USA national team. Um, And under that, he became a silver medalist um, in 2007 under the FIBA Under 19 World Championship. He would go on to become a silver medalist. He debuted with the 2024 U.S. Olympic team in Paris. Steve Kerr was the head coach that year for the Olympic team. Um, that particular Olympic team would go on to win an Olympic gold medal, and that would be his first and only gold medal by being on that 2024 Olympic team. With teammates like Carmelo Anthony, Kevin Durant. That was a good team. That was a good team. Oh, and we must note too that he became athlete of the year, U.S. basketball 5-on-5 male athlete of the year too. So the guy got legacy, man. He's a good dude, both on the court and off the court. You know, married his longtime Canadian girlfriend Aisha Curry. Oh man, we can say so many things about Aisha. Poor Aisha, man. She gets a lot of uh, bad press and a lot of people come for her. But luckily though, she's been staying out of the spotlight. So she kind of step away from the spotlight, which is good. Like we know of her crazy things she has said. You know, um, Another thing about Curry, he had he got that partnership with Under Armour. He's the face of their footwear line, and also the president of his signature shoe and apparel line called the Curry brand. He was originally signed to Nike, but um, in that 2013 off season, he decided, he started making decisions to begin that partnership with Under Armour, which was man that was a very lucrative partnership too. So yeah, I'm not gonna kill this, beat the stick with it, you know. But moving forward, I want to ask you guys, uh, who would you say is the most impactful athlete of this generation? You know, who do you think? Right. So they usually make you retire before they carve your name out in stone, and we all know that. And Steph, he didn't wait for retirement. He just kept being undeniable. If we take anything away from Mr. Curry, that is that he has been undeniable. World's greatest shooter. I was about to say sugar. God. All right, so last topic before we take it home, and this one is a health story. We're gonna just touch on this real quickly, um, and we're gonna follow this one. So, RFK Jr., Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He's put psychedelics to the forefront, and they are on fast track for FDA review. And we're talking mushrooms, people. That's what we're talking. If anyone know what mushrooms are, you know what they do. But we got some new research on it that's showing that a single dose created some measurable brain activity changes with effects lasting up to a month. So mushrooms could be the first FDA approved psychedelic therapy in a couple of months here, and it's aimed to like treat um, resistant depression. So what's resistant depression? What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that no matter what type of SSRs or any other type of psychiatric meds you throw at the depression, it just don't work. Um, there's a population out there who, man, unfortunately, it don't matter what, no matter what they do, they can't just get over the depression hump. They have issues, mental health issues, and they need something that can really pull them out of that. So fast track doesn't mean no oversight. Let me clarify that for you. You may hear psychedelics and then assume deregulation. That don't mean just because it's headed to be approved by the FDA that everybody can just go get it now. That's not gonna happen. I can tell you that right now that we're not about to have everybody being able to get mushrooms. You ain't gonna just be able to go in the store and say, "Hey, I want a couple rough mushrooms," and then you out here tripping. That ain't happening. No, 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 no. Um, Once again, it's for treatment-resistant depression. That targeted population. This ain't a recreational use policy. I believe it is a step, towards that way. Maybe somewhere down the line. I think with the clinical application of it, it could open some doors for it to be pushed through for recreational use. Um, that would be interesting. That would be very interesting. But the clinical application of this though is how we can keep things honest for right now. Because there's more studies that need to be had about it. Certainly we want to see if in a controlled way of applying this stuff that it's going to really, if it's going to solve some of the problems that most people want to use it for, or if it's not. All right. So there's stigma behind it, of course. A lot of people have stigma on any substance that's considered Schedule One. Um, but I think once you remove the stigma around a lot of Schedule One drugs, you know that's how it ends up on a legitimate federal fast track. And that all has a lot to do with changes in the research and the politics to get you there. Okay, that's how we got there. That's exactly how we got here after decades, man. Decades of like trying to fight for a lot of stuff to be, that's on Schedule One that can be real useful and real helpful to many people who are dealing with some stuff. You know, but we gotta have some real open questions about it. We want to know what the long term data is going to look like. We want to know who's going to be able to administer it. If it's going to be something that you got to go in the clinic for, and then be treated with it, or will you be able to just be prescribed it and then you pick it up from the pharmacy and you take it yourself. With a um, correct measured dose. But I think that can get kind of like that can get pretty. Ugh, I don't want to imagine. I don't want to imagine what that could lead to. I mean, that could be lead to people selling it. you know, but yeah, they might come up with something. They may come up with a way to keep it from leaking into people who don't necessarily need it and just want to abuse it for recreational use. Now, another thing we going to a question is like what the cost and access of it going to be. What is that going to look like? We don't want to present it as a settled miracle cure until we can really ask the tough questions about the data, about who's going to administer it, like what it's going to cost and who can access it. Who is it accessible to? All right. There's a bridge we gotta line up and cross, when it comes to the mental, the physical, the spiritual, you know, um, and that bridge is the bridge that leads to why we covered everything today. And that's exactly where the show goes next. We spent decades though, and I want to just before we get into like the spiritual part of this, we want to acknowledge that we spent decades being told that this substance had no medical value, along with a lot of other things. Now it might be the fastest path to FDA approval in psychiatry. Sit with that. I think that's a win. I think that's a win that the culture is shifting a bit. So last call for chats. If you want to drop something in the chat, before we close out, drop your one word gut reaction to tonight's show, the market, Iran, Curry, uh, what hit you the hardest. If you want to comment on on me struggling in this stream because this is my first stream in a long time. Man, I haven't live streamed I can't remember. It's got to be over 2 years ago. It's got to be over 2 years. But I'm rusty. I'm gonna get better though. This is what I do. This is what I love to do. I love being able to come and congregate with you guys and give you guys some good information, some good content. So here's what I want to leave you with tonight, though. Everything we covered: a war that won't quit, a market bracing for impact, a government fight over who gets to hold power and how, an athlete who refused to wait for permission to be great, and a medicine that might finally treat pain science couldn't reach before. That's amazing. It's all the same story underneath, though. Things break, people break. We know that systems break. And the whole question of your life is what you do in the after. I don't say that as a talking point. I say it because I have lived enough of my own after to know that it's true. Whatever's cracking in your world right now, if it's your finances, your health, a relationship, your own mind, you are not disqualified from healing just because it hasn't happened yet. Let's think solution first. Let's be faith anchored. Let's keep moving. That's the show. Every time, no matter no matter what's trending that day, okay? I want you to know that's what this is all about. And I got to repeat it. You are not disqualified from healing just because it hasn't happened yet. So if today's live stream gave you something, do me a huge solid. Subscribe to the Urban News Journal right here on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook and on X at TUMN. And if you are one of my Transform You or Warrior Mandate people just finding this channel tonight, I want to welcome you. Okay, welcome to over on the other wild side of this. This is the news and culture side of what I do, and I would love to have you here too. We will be back Friday, same time, same edge. I will see you then. Many blessings, peace, and lots of love. I am out, folks. Out with a bang.